you guys have chairs? If you want to just grab them. All right, thank you all for coming. This is our Denver Modern Web Meetup. This is a pretty great audience here, big crowd, so thank you so much for coming. Today we're going to be talking about Node package management. Gordan is going to be our speaker for tonight. Just a couple of quick announcements, and then we'll get kind of right into it. So if you do want to jump on our Wi-Fi, the password is right up here. For next time, on September 4th, Rosie, right over there, is going to be giving a talk on Google Actions, right? Yes, Google Actions. So this is kind of the text. It's text to. You can explain better than I can.
Yeah, it's like the equivalent of a Alexa skill, but you can make little programs that when you say, "Hey Google," it can do a custom action for you rather than just their built-in tools.
Yep. Sounds awesome. So if you're curious about that or any of your stuff, we also after that we're going to have a talk on clean code in October. That is going to be for just how to keep your code clean and kind of some of the best practices. If you've ever read the book Clean Code, it's going to be a lot of stuff from that, and there's a couple extra little things of how to manage your code to keep it nice and tidy. So that's what we're going to be covering in September and October. Again, we are at the first of the month every month, so keep looking out on our meetup for any kind of activities. Everything that you'll see here, we are recording and streaming this, so there'll be a follow-up in the chat for this meetup with the link to the YouTube URL tomorrow morning-ish, whenever I get to it. And yeah, so if you have any questions afterwards, Gordan will be here for a little bit to help out with any kind of node questions that you might have, not node, I'm sorry, NPM questions that you might have. If you have any questions about Salim, who is, we're lucky enough that we're here for beer and pizza and for the space here. If you have any questions about what we do here at Salim, you can come see me. I think Rosie will probably be sticking around a little bit afterwards, and there's a couple of us if you're just curious about what we do here at Salim. More than happy to answer questions. And with that, we got one other person who's going to make one other announcement for us.
Sure.
For Denver devs.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for having me. I'm here on behalf of the Develop Denver Conference. Quick show of hands, who here has heard of the Develop Denver Conference? Oh, sweet. Target audience, you guys. How many people here actually have been to the conference out of curiosity? Okay, great. So we got some conversions to make. we got with a K has been there before. How many times have you been there?
I think it's twice.
Yeah, okay.
This year I might or might not be able to go depending on whether I can make the volunteering slot.
Sweet. Well, anyway, so I'm here on behalf of the conference. The first thing I'll say, and you'll hear in my few-minute pitch, and I'll be short, I promise, is you'll hear me say this a few times, is that the Develop Denver Conference is first and foremost a community-driven and community-focused conference. It's a nonprofit conference, and what I'll start with to say is one of the most obvious things you'll notice about it for those of you who come out this year and join us is that unlike other conferences that you've been to, where all of your great speakers are flown in from out of town, and then when they're done, they just leave again. The Develop Denver Conference, pretty much all the speakers that you hear are from here in Denver. So you hear these great talks, and then when they're done, it's people that you might run into at these meetups, you might run into here, might be people that you try and hire or try and hire you. So it's really, really great. It's August 15th and 16th. One of the things that we do, again, with the whole community focus thing, is that instead of renting out one huge venue space and have a bunch of conference rooms in there, for the past, this is now year number 8, we've always sort of taken over a neighborhood. Last year, and then again this year, it's going to be in Rhino. And so one of the cool things about that is that the talks are in Catalyst, Zeppelin Station, Source Hotel. My talk's going to be in the Helicon Art Gallery. So it's really cool. You get a chance to kind of like bounce between the different spots, see Rhino, enjoy the summer a little bit. And honestly, I've met some really great friends walking between talks and like, oh, what do you think? Where are you headed next? And that. Along those lines, what I'll point out is that there are talks about 5 different styles of talks. There's like product development design, UI and UX, traditional software development talks, which is the large bulk of what the talks are. There's career stuff, and there's also some DevOps stuff as well. There's about 4 different concurrent tracks going on at any given time. So you get to sort of choose your own adventure, hop between the buildings to go to the talks that you want to go to. One other thing, right now, obviously, so it's next week, it's a week from tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. This time, you guys will just be going and seeing the talks that are there, but if you like it, next year, one more thing about it, the whole thing is community-driven. All the talks that you'll see were all voted on by people who purchased tickets. So instead of like in your traditional conference where, you know, behind like a Wizard of Oz curtain, they sort of pick who it is, and then here's what the talks are, when everybody buys their tickets, they vote on them, and that's how it is. Like I said, really great it's sort of, the feel of it is a really great meetup turned into a conference. It's very, very warm. Everybody's kind of hanging out. For the 2 full days, there's just like an open bar where you can just like swing in, grab a beer, chat with people, head to your next talk. There's events on Thursday and Friday night afterwards. And if you guys have been to the Develop Happy Hour before, the Develop Happy Hour is actually a spin-off of this conference where everybody's like, that was so much fun, what a great time seeing everybody. I don't have to wait a year. They turned it into a meetup where every month everybody's kind of hangs out and has some beers. So it's a really great time, awesome content. If you go to that link there, Develop Denver /discount tickets, and use that code, you get 20% off instead of the $249. You get tickets for $199. If that is still cost prohibitive, please reach out to me and see what we can do to help you to go. Yes?
Do you have single day tickets available?
We don't, but again, reach out to me and let me know. So my name's Guillermo again. If you guys are on Denver Devs, I believe I'm the only Guillermo on Denver Devs. If not, I'll comment in today's meetup with a link to this stuff that I just mentioned. Feel free to send me a direct message through Meetup if that's easier for you. But please, if you guys want to come out and financially it seems like you can't, please let me know. The whole point of this conference, one last time, is to build and foster and grow the Denver community. We would hate it if somebody who wants to go can't because of a financial situation. So thanks again. I really hope to see you guys out there. It's a really great time. Kind of short notice a week out, but hopefully some of you guys can do it. Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right. Without further ado, Gordon, I think you're going to kick us off.
All righty. Adam, thanks. Guillermo, thanks. Thanks for coming, everybody. Quick story for you. Rosie gave a talk a couple weeks ago, and she was like, yeah, you should do one. And I had a couple beers. I was like, yeah, maybe I will. And she told Adam that, and now I'm on the schedule. So this is the first talk I'm doing, and it's been really fun to prepare for it. I got some work done today, and in the past couple weeks getting it done. So anyway, thanks for coming. We are going to talk about surviving package management. And here is just a little of my info. I'll throw this up at the end too if you want to reach out any questions you have and maybe forgot to ask during the day. So we are talking about package management, and in the Node community, the 2 big ones are NPM and Yarn. I'm sure you guys have heard of those, and they are essentially repositories for sharing code and sharing packages between people. Developers can use other people's code. Some stats on NPM. These are old stats. Note that I think they're from 2016. Anyway, we're looking at over 1 billion weekly downloads in July of 2016, so I'm sure it's way past that at this point. But it still kind of gets the point across, even though that's old information. Every time someone is running an NPM install, about 45 packages are going to be installed with each one of those. So that could be each individual project that you have. You're going to bring in potentially 45 or more packages each time, and that doesn't quite count for other dependencies that those dependencies might have. As our dependencies start to grow, there's a couple concerns that this can bring up for us. One of them is the size of everything that we're downloading. Another one is maybe if you're relying on other code, you can't depend that it's always going to be there for you. And then, of course, there's security concerns of bringing in other people's code into your projects. Project size is always an issue. If your project is now too large with your dependencies, for client applications, it'll take a while for everything to load, especially now with pervasive mobile development. We have people on limited bandwidth on their phones, so it's kind of a concern for our users. It's also a concern for developers as we're developing. I'm sure you've all experienced this. We have a hook on pulling new code down into our repos at the company I work for, and that hook is to install anything new that we've missed. And I'm not a big fan of it because anytime you pull code, now you're sitting and waiting for everything to reinstall. So I'm sure you guys have kind of experienced that. So the larger our dependencies get, the more of an issue this becomes. Another concern that we might have is that this code that is not ours, we're using, might not always be available to us. Here's another problem you guys might have heard of. This was back in March of 2016. The internet was almost ripped down entirely. And it was because of this package right here. So left pad, if you notice here, it has 473 dependents. So there are 473 packages that are dependent on left pad. Furthermore, this package is deprecated. And so when left pad was pulled down off of the internet, all of these packages depending on it ceased to work. Build failures everywhere. People were having a bad day. The reason it was pulled down was actually due to it was a naming dispute with the original developer who made it, and it wasn't this package, it was one of his other ones. So NPM pulled it down and he was bummed, so he ripped everything down. This is the first time, I believe, that NPM said, wait a minute, we can't do that, and they actually put the package back up without him doing it. So that was an interesting situation, and when you're relying on code that isn't yours, you kind of have to be careful for something like this. Another concern bringing in other people's code can be security concerns. This is another one. Actually, Nick, you and I were just briefly chatting about this. There was a bit of malicious code entered into a package that there were some crypto libraries that were dependent on. So software that was built to house Bitcoin and trade Bitcoin was compromised. And this essentially went undetected for just about 2 months. The way that the malicious actor here, it's kind of tough to see. In 3 different commits, he was able to steal. I couldn't find statistics on what he maybe was able to steal, but in these 3 commits, he was able to kind of hijack a bunch of different Bitcoin wallets. He did that by first bringing in another external dependency, which isn't necessarily a suspicious package, was the flat map stream. Maybe one of the odd things that you would notice about it is that there was only 1 contributor, minimal commits, and it was pretty new. A couple days later, removed this dependency and kind of home rolled his own code and put the new flat map in there, right? And also not necessarily suspicious. This is one of the things we'll talk about. Sometimes it might be wise just to write it yourself and drop it into your project. When he published this to NPM, the updates, the minified code had some encrypted code in there that was actually the malicious code that was able to kind of live undetected and steal Bitcoin. I will link to this, the article that I was reading about this if you want to read more into it. It was pretty interesting how he got through with this. This is just a conversation. This was the original developer who wrote Event Stream, and he apparently had handed it off to this other guy. All of this happened. So takeaway here is if we're going to use other people's code, we're susceptible to attack. So we just kind of need to be keep that in our mind. And if you didn't write the code and you don't know who did and you don't trust them, then maybe you probably shouldn't use it. Reminds me, there's one other article that I'll get to you, Adam, and you can link. It's kind of a fear-mongering article. This guy, it's called "I'm Harvesting Credit Card Numbers and Passwords from Your Site, and Here's How." And he goes into this super long list of how he's able to do this and again remain undetected. So it's kind of a fun read, but too much to go into at the moment. So to recap, concerns with bringing in code is our package size is going to get large. Our dependencies might not always be around. And thirdly, there's, of course, security concerns with bringing in other people's code. So we need to kind of have a game plan on how we're going to take care of that. And I suggest that we start with the Infinity Stones. Marvel fans? That wasn't a surprise. Awesome. So I'm going to give you, for those of you who are unaware, I'm going to give you kind of a brief rundown of what the Infinity Stones are, each individual stone, and then how we're going to apply them to sorting through our dependencies. The first one, the orange one, that's the Soul Stone. And the Soul Stone allows the holder to steal and take any living or dead souls and control and manipulate them. We're not going to have to get rid of our thing we love the most to use that one, so don't worry. I won't make you throw anything away. The next one's the Time Stone, and that allows our user to see into the past and the future, kind of change the flow of time, travel back and forth through time. The reality stone is going to allow our user to create alternative realities. They can manipulate things as they please and make that their new reality. After that, we have the space stone. It allows the holder to move objects anywhere throughout that reality again. So it's kind of a teleportation sort of a thing. And the mind stone enhances their mental abilities. The last one, the power stone, it allows access and ability to manipulate all those other forms of energy, and it really kind of boosts the effects of the other 5 stones, the other 5 gems when they're around. So we're going to collect those stones and see if they can help reduce some of the suffering that we have in dependency and package management. So we'll start with the soul stone. The soul stone allows us to use souls, living and dead. It's kind of like our dependencies. We need dependencies, and we just need to make sure they're well tested, well maintained, dedicated, and proven. Some examples of things that we definitely want to use are utility libraries like Lodash. Lodash is a super helpful utility library in the Node world, and it provides a lot of the features that JavaScript and Node don't already have. Date time libraries are also very helpful. I don't really want to spin up a new date or time library, so that's one I'm definitely going to steal, manipulate, and control myself. And so this is pulling in some dependencies, and then we don't want to reinvent the wheel, and then sometimes maybe we do. Those wheels kind of look a little bit janky, but we don't want to do it all the time. We want to use that soul stone and bring well-maintained and tested code into our projects. Next stone after that, it's going to help us maintain is the time stone. The time stone is allowing us to see into the past and the future, stop time, change time, things like that. I kind of think of semantic versioning and pinning our dependency versions to allow us to do that, allow us to manipulate time. Maybe we want an older version of something. We don't want to upgrade. It's not compatible with what we're doing. In semantic versioning, quick overview, we've got these three different numbers, right? Your patch number is over on the right, minor versions in the center, and major on the left. Patch versions are bug fixes, little things that need to get out there, probably security patches, other things like that, not necessarily new features. Minor versions could be new features, but they're going to be backward compatible. They're not going to break things that you have. And then major versions, of course, are going to be a change to the API or change to the software enough that you want to lock that down. Make sure you're not upgrading without intending to. So with semantic versioning, then we can actually go ahead and pin our dependencies. And so for minor updates, we can use this caret. It's going to pin things just to update in the minor. It's going to update all the way up to the next major version. So if we're pinned at caret 1.1.0 and a 1.4.0 came out, it would go ahead and upgrade for us on that. So we've kind of able to see into the future, see how far we want to go. If we're just looking for patch updates, the second one here with the tilde, that's only going to allow our software to automatically update the patch version there at the end. So if we were at 1.1.0, we could only make it up to 1.1.6, say, right? And if we want to pin it entirely, we don't want to accept any updates, then we can leave everything out. We'll give it a specific version, semantic version that we want, and that's when we install, that's what we'll always have. There are some ranges as well. We won't go into them right now. They function similar to greater than, less than, equal to. So you can kind of pick and choose which versions that you may want. An important thing to note, though, with semantic versioning is that it's a standard, but it's not necessarily followed. So, something might break the API, but it doesn't say that it's going to. So you kind of have to be careful to keep that in mind as you're moving through. Also, an important thing to note is not all security patches are going to be in a patched version. If I have released a new package or a new version of my package and it includes new functionality and also a security patch, I might just bump the minor version. I might not actually release a security patch. So if you're locked at your security patch, you might not get the, if you're locked at your, if you've locked at your patch updates, you might not get the minor version with the security info that you need. Next one is our reality stone. Remember, the reality stone is allowing us to create alternative realities. And I kind of see our lock files as being able to do that for us. Lock files are auto-generated by either NPM or Yarn. And they are going to ensure that we have the same version of reality no matter where we're doing this install, right? So we've kind of locked, whether it's through a build process or on different machines in different developers. And then one other thing that I'm not super familiar with, but I came across as I was researching is Yarn has a new feature, selective dependency resolution. And selective dependency resolution allows you to choose what one of your dependencies might need as a child. So sometimes we'll receive some sort of an alert that we need to upgrade something, but it's not actually a package that we have imported ourselves. It's a dependency of one of our dependencies. So this would allow you to maybe upgrade if they have not done that yet, and a patch release did come out. So yeah, it's something to look into. NPM does not, NPM does not have this yet, I don't believe, but Yarn does, so definitely worth looking into. I have that link as well. Adam, when I give you these slides, these links are in there in the notes. Perfect. So using lock files and then these resolutions is kind of going to prevent us from this next concern here. Without using that auto-generated lock file that should be committed to your source code, you don't really know. Maybe there's a change in version, so every time you install it could give you some new stuff.
Can you explain a little bit more what the lock files actually do for you? Since you already have your package file, what does package lock actually do?
Yeah, so if we have our package.json is going to allow us to save all of the dependencies that we need, and in that package.json we can lock the versions that we might want. That only locks the version that I've installed for me. It doesn't lock any of those children versions. So this lock file that is generated is going to lock all of those dependencies that my dependencies are depending on. So the further child dependencies are locked where they are. Thanks. Yes?
My past experience with NPM specifically, it doesn't lock in the translate. So you have that here for that squiggle to allow a minor patch update. If the package that you depend on updates incurs a bump, then any of its children dependencies are free to update regardless of what you care about.
The question was, or I guess comment you were saying in your experience, if you were to allow your package to bump up, all of the children of that package are then free to bump up? Yeah, that's been my experience as well. I must not have explained that well. So thanks for the clarification. And that, again, with the lock file, it will then lock to that specific version until we've updated again. Alrighty, our next Infinity Stone, we have the Space Stone. It's going to allow us to move objects anywhere in reality. And what that kind of means to us in development is if we can decouple our code pretty well, we can kind of easily swap things in and out, whether it be for a security reason or maybe we want to use a new package because the date library we're using is far too large and robust for what we actually need. The more decoupled we have things, the easier it's going to be to swap some stuff out. So this is going to be a bit of a code demo here. I'm going to place an interface kind of in front of one of the dependencies that we're using, and then we'll swap them out as we go. This is a helpful pattern for things like I'm about to show you, maybe a date library or specific config files that you have in your application. it is not necessarily beneficial for other things like, say, React or Express. We wouldn't want to put an interface in front of React. That's the framework that we're using, right? So yeah, let's get into it. Bear with me. I'm going to switch to mirroring. Alrighty. Let's see. Adam, do you know how we can get rid of these
Which one?
green lines?
So, no, why
It's coming, huh?
Is it coming from Slack?
I think it's coming from Slack. I'm gonna
Share and reshare real
I'm
quick?
gonna stop sharing and then reshare. Exactly.
Oh, you did it.
And
Here, you know what? Why don't you can stop sharing, and I'll just move this over, and we'll do it like this.
okay. Alrighty. So let me make sure I'm in the right place here. Yep. So I'll just give you a tour of this super simple React app. We've got a little search by characters and search by series of Marvel characters. So if I click on search by series or search by character, we can go ahead and search. Oh, yep. We'll go ahead and search for Thanos, and so we've got a little description and a photo of Thanos here. We'll grab one more, look for Spider-Man. And there he is. Same thing with series. We'll search for Avengers. And we've got the Avengers here in a moment. So in these two components these two React components, the series search and the character search, both of these components are making separate calls to the Marvel public API. And they're using a library called Axios. So what we're going to do is go ahead and remove that out and put it behind an interface. And then after that, we're going to see how easy it's going to be to switch to something else, say Axios is deprecated, or for some reason we want to toss it. So how's this size? Is that all right for you?
Looks good.
So this is our character, and I'm going to kind of spare you on the React stuff. If you want to chat React afterwards, feel free to stop me and we can go over this. What I really want to get to here is this handle search function. So handle search is going to take a search term, and it has a path and query parameters that it's going to provide to Axios here on line 24. Axios is going to make a GET request to this endpoint, and then go ahead and set the state of our application to put the info that we get back in there. Series search is almost identical. The difference would be here is the path and the query parameters that we're sending through. But again, makes a GET request to Axios and sends that through. So I've already set up a file with what we are looking to do here. So I'm going to kind of work through as we go. So first we need to import Axios in this file. We're going to import the necessary configurations that we need. And I have to look. I don't remember where it is. Sorry. Oh, it's right there. Next, we're going to write this get function. This is going to be the function that we've used in search series, this method on Axios that's going to make this get request. We're going to rewrite this over here. So we'll start with function get. Is going to take 3 arguments. And again, that was our path, query params, and the common configuration. For this common configuration, I'm actually going to pull off, I'm going to provide a default property or a default argument for it, and this will inject some of the dependencies that we need for this file. And I think it is Marvel API key and Marvel base URL. And again, we can talk syntax afterwards if this doesn't look familiar to you. So now that we have our get function, we need to return a call to Axios that is going to take those 3 arguments. So we'll return axios.get, and axios.get takes this URL that was our base URL, the path, query parameters, and the API key. First, our Marvel base URL / path, and this will be the path that's provided as an argument. And the query parameters, as well as our API key. And I think it's Marvel API key. Marvel API key is not defined. Thank you. Let me make sure that it is capital, our config, yep. This is a no-no, but we won't discuss that. Just don't go making requests to my dev account in Marvel. All right, so the last thing we need to do is export this request module with our get method. And we'll put the get function in there. So again, first we brought in Axios here on line 2, some common configuration that we needed on line 5. And then in our get function, we took the path and the query parameters that we'll get from our components and the common config as well. Then we are returning a call to that Axios call, and that is what is returned when we call our get method. So I am going to go ahead and switch branches, and we can check and make sure that it worked. All right, so this will look the same as before. Now what we need to do is actually utilize that interface that we just built. So instead of Axios, we're going to go ahead and import our interface. And we have to go back a directory to HTTP request adapter. We no longer need this API key in here since we've injected it to our request adapter. Our props are going to stay the same, except now down here in our handle search, instead of using this Axios, we're going to use our HTTP request. We're still going to call the get method on there, but now all we need to pass in is the path and the query parameters. So I'm going to tab back over to our application, and search by characters should still work as expected. And good. So we still have Thanos. So recap, what we did is after building that, we imported that, required that request adapter, and we are now using that instead of the Axios right here in the file. We'll do the same thing for character search. Again, dropping Axios and the API key, and passing the path, query parameters, to HTTP request get method. Again, let's check, make sure we have it. That was, Oh, you know what? I did them backwards. So now we'll do the series. Make sure that one works as well. Let's try Spider-Man.
You switched the wrong way.
I did, yeah. I test them. But they both still work. So.
Still works.
Alrighty, so. Let's see. So we have put an interface in front of Axios, and we are now using that in our application. So now we just got terrible news that Axios has been deprecated and no one else is going to maintain it. So what we need to do now is find a new package to use. Since we've put this behind an interface and we've kind of done this hard work up front, it should be pretty easy for us to swap something else in there. So I'm going to check out new branch. We're going to swap our dependencies. Everything should still be in there. Now we're going to use, instead of Axios, we're going to use another HTTP request library, request promise. So first we need to install it. And I'm going to yarn add request and request promise. Good to go here. So we're going to swap this out. So we don't want Axios anymore. We're going to go ahead and import RP from request promise. So then we need to update our get function to return the request promise call as opposed to Axios. I happen to know that the request promise takes a slightly different config as an argument to the get method. So we'll go ahead and swap that out. Fortunately for us, it's pretty easy. It's going to take a URI key with the value of the URI that we want to hit, and then we want to let it know that we do want JSON back. And I forgot to switch to RP here. Thank you. All right, let's see. I think that is it here. Yeah, so updating this here, we now should not have to make any changes to either one of these. And our application should still work now without Axios. So we'll search for Thanos. We still have them. We'll also check the series. We'll have them. Oh, good. And that is a nice way to kind of decouple our code away from the package that we're actually relying on. Cool. So now we get to play with technology again. I'm going to try and swap us back to our views. We've got a couple more stones. There's mine, and perfect. All right, there we go. So again, that example was maybe not the most practical, but it kind of shows you some of these packages that we would want to put this in front of, and maybe not so much others like React or Express. All right, so the next stone we have is the Mind Stone, and the Mind Stone enhances our brain power. This kind of reminds us of that crypto package earlier. You don't really know what's in your packages, so the Mind Stone is going to help us really kind of see how we can figure out what may be in there before we decide if we trust it or not. Shout out to Rosie for this one. Thank you.
Shout outs to Randall Monroe.
Yeah. Actually, exactly.
No, I made this.
So as we're kind of using the Mind Stone to enhance our brain power and figure out if we want to bring some of these packages in, there are some relatively easy questions that we can ask ourselves. We want to know do we trust this author if we see that it's well-maintained open source with maybe, I don't know, 50 contributors. That might be a little easier to go with than maybe a single contributor that just showed up last week from who knows where. Another thing you can check is the NPM names on it, right? There's been issues in the past. I believe MariaDB, I don't know the full story on it, but there was a naming issue in NPM related to MariaDB. Someone put up a malicious package with a very similar name or maybe the same. And of course, it was downloaded because people didn't notice the difference. ESLint Scope had a similar issue with that. So the name of these packages is important. Something else you can look at are the NPM stats of the package. Are they frequently downloaded? It's not necessarily a good call for if it's safe or not, but if you're going to be the first person to download it, maybe look into it. You can check GitHub, look at the project health. Is it well maintained? When was the last commit? If no one's touched it in 6-8 months, maybe not. How many issues are open? So just kind of judiciously looking at it to see what may be in there and if you want to look at it. The last thing you can do is always look at depending on what you're bringing in, look at the source code, the dependencies it has. I'm going to show you an example here in a second that depending on what you're using it for, I think looking at the source code could probably help you figure out that you might not need it just to start with. Has anyone ever heard of the isEven package? So isEven is a package that you can see here at the bottom. The usage is you require it, and then it'll tell you if a number is even or odd. And what's interesting to note about this, there are 13 dependents on this package. There are 13 different packages looking for that. This ends up in 45,000 weekly downloads, probably from those dependents. I can't imagine people bring it in. So let's go ahead and look at the source code for isEven. It has one dependency, and it looks like the dependency is odd. So isEven is returning a function that tells us bang is odd of the number that you've given it. Maybe not, maybe you don't need this one, Quick glance at the source code, you could. Well, if you notice, isOdd also has one dependency. isOdd is a lot more widely used. 26 dependents, and you can see what it does as well. It'll tell you if the number is odd or not. Let's go ahead and look at the isOdd source code. So isOdd has one dependency required at the top. It says isNumber. It does do some nice type checking for us here. Again, maybe not something that you would need to pull in. I think you could probably home roll this relatively easy yourself. Let's go ahead and look at isNumber.
Are there real packages including this, or is this entirely a joke?
They're real packages.
There are very real packages. I thought the same thing. He asked, are there real packages including this? And I think when we get down to isNumber, there are plenty of them. isEven, not so much maybe, but yes, this would be a left pad issue if pulled down. So isNumber has 219 dependents, 18 million downloads weekly. And let's go ahead and look at the source code for isNumber. And it checks if it's a number. So we probably could have home rolled this one as well. We probably could have written this into our code ourselves. So anyway, the point of this is just be smart about bringing new things in. Yes, Adam?
One thing.
Yes,
Can you back a slide?
I will.
This is major or whatever version 7.
And Adam, there's 3 open issues.
18 other versions of this.
That is pretty funny. Good call out.
Just an observation I want to call out.
It might be fun to poke around too and see what the issues are and what the open pull requests are. So anyway, yeah, the main point with the Mindstone and bringing in new packages is you kind of evaluate. Do you need to bring this in? You know, if you bring in a package, you're kind of owning this now. This is part of your project, and you need to be careful the way that you're going to do it. So easier to manage packages if you don't have them at all. Last stone we have is the Power Stone. The Power Stone enhances the power of all of the other stones, and we can see the Power Stone as similar to just the dev community that we work in. And what that means is keep yourself open to input from other people. Keep going to meetups. Learn other things that you can, and try not to work siloed. Open source is great, and we definitely need it. Again, I don't want to write a date library, nor do I want to rewrite Lodash. So we want to rely on it, but we've got to kind of work together on this. Some other tools and resources that you could use as you are bringing in packages and other information is checking issues and change logs on as it's released, if those are things that you need to bring in. Also, there are a couple pieces of software that we've implemented recently at the company I work for. One is called Renovate. We started with Greenkeeper and moved to Renovate. Renovate and Greenkeeper serve similar purposes. They allow you to, or what they do is they kind of automate the upgrading of packages for you. They check and make sure if there are any security vulnerabilities out there, they get them upgraded, and they put the pull request right there in your repos. GitHub security alerts are pretty helpful. Actually, as I was building that React project, as soon as I pushed it up to GitHub, realized I have 2 security alerts. Let me see if I can open a tab. Let's go. You're going to make this hard for me, aren't you? I'll just show you what they look like.
It's a great picture of you.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. That is a great picture of me.
666 contributions.
Oh, whoa. Let's see. Yeah, right? Let's see if it's going to show it to me. So these GitHub alerts, this is what I'm talking about right here, this yellow box. It will say they found potential security vulnerabilities in your dependencies. If you click on them, it's actually going to show me, you're right, it is Lodash, and it is in my yarn lock. I did not include it myself, so it is one of my dependencies, child dependencies, is relying on this. So it's pretty helpful, but what Renovate and Greenkeeper do is they will upgrade these for you and submit the PR right there. I think that they're automating fixes in GitHub. I haven't looked into it yet, but that's another tool that could be pretty helpful as things are coming along. The last thing that I mention on that, and this is maybe something to start the discussion, is a concern that we have at our company is once these pull requests are opened, nobody takes care of them. It's kind of the bystander effect. So if any of you have experienced that, I would love kind of feedback and maybe suggestions on how we reduce the noise of hearing these things from Greenkeeper, but at the same time actually get them taken care of. So anyway, we can talk about that afterwards. But with that being said, the last thing I want to remind you is this is from NPM.js's website, and NPM is easy for makes it easy for JavaScript developers to share and reuse code, and it makes it easy to update the code that you're sharing so you can build amazing things. And let's be honest, that's what we're here for, is to build amazing things. So with these extra tools in our pocket, let's make sure we're doing that. Cool. Thanks, guys. Yep. Any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, so when you look at packages that you're trying to pull in, do you ever look at licenses? Or are there certain licenses that, are there rules about like how you can use the package or something?
Great question. She asked if I am pulling in packages, how often do I look at the licenses? Because yes, there are definitely plenty of licenses. A majority of the stuff that I'm looking at is open source, so to be honest, I don't look deeply into it, but I think that's a really good suggestion. That's probably something to be aware of. Yes?
So we're acutely aware of that problem, and so there's a nice little Webpack plugin called License Webpack plugin. Go figure. And so we just added a little bit of customization on that to ensure that we only pull in certain types of license things that we can include in our source code. Because then we also not just prevent other non-approved things from coming in, but we also auto-generate the whole licensing. I don't know, like a directory full of like crap that we're using. It's like, we're using all these packages, here are the licenses, here go.
That's awesome to know. Just to repeat, he said that, what was the package called again?
License Webpack plugin.
License Webpack plugin, and it kind of helps manage all of the licenses for everything you're bringing in. Thanks. Yep.
I was hoping that you would touch on a little bit of an offline cache kind of thing. I don't know if you had that planned.
You know what, I didn't. I didn't, but in preparing for this, it came across. You were asking if I was going to speak on anything with offline caching, and no, but it's something that I'm kind of curious about. This kind of goes back to the left pad issue, or whatever other issue it may be of where is this code when I need it. An issue that we've run into at work is the code that we need sometimes will not be there. Maybe NPM isn't responding well today, or connectivity is slow, so our build process is, I don't know, it takes 3 or 4 years, it feels like, right? So no, I'm open to discussion on that one. I would love to hear more, but I wasn't going to touch on that today.
Okay, yeah, I was hoping for that because I would love to have that discussion. So about, I don't know, 8 months ago or so at our company, we actually switched everything from go get all the things from the internet and download on your machine on the build system on CI on your local machine, and we switched it over to using an offline cache to then check in into the project itself. And that's just made builds so much quicker. Like, and anytime you switch branches, we have like a script that you can just run, just delete the cache, rebuild it for you, and just everything just works.
Huh.
There's no surprises, no nothing. And so we use Yarn for that, just because I don't know if NPM has picked that feature up yet, but Yarn has an offline cache support feature in there. So we leverage that along with the frozen log file, so that it doesn't actually go and try to reach the internet to actually figure out dependency resolution. So like once you check it in, that's all it will use. Like it won't go looking for new things.
Huh. That's helpful.
What's that, sorry? Yeah, we commit the. A little bit, but we have like one commit saying we bump all the things.
Yeah.
It's like,
This will be hard to read. Yeah.
It just goes like
yeah.
nonsense.
You commit tarballs. That's what the offline cache is, just a list, so the directory of tarballs.
Let's after party about this, because that sounds like it would solve quite a few problems that we have.
Happy to share our references.
Cool. Thanks. All right. Well, thanks again, guys. I appreciate it.
So yeah, so thank you, Gordan. That's.
There you go.
I like the Thanos slide that you had.
This one, that is not me. Google Thanos.js. I can't remember who did this one either. So now you can go snap.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Gordan. Again, if you have questions for Gordan, or it sounds like you guys want to maybe like chat a little bit afterwards, we'll be here till about 8:30 or so. So that's about almost another hour or so, and I'll kind of judge it. But if you have questions for Gordan, or if you have questions for me about anything we do here at Slom, feel free to come grab us. Otherwise, you're welcome to just kind of hang out. There is no more pizza, unfortunately, but there is beer. So feel free to have another beer and just hang out. So thank you all so much for coming. And remember, next one is going to be on Google, and that's going to be the first week of September. Thank you so much.
Got it? Sweet. Thanks, Adam.